It's way back from where I was. Let me see if I can even reach it. Yeah, there it is, okay. I can do it. Okay, thank you. What was I talking about? Alcoholics, okay. So they want to drink, so they will tell you anything to get to go out and drink. They will start a fight, they will be really nice, they'll do whatever they have to do. They'll tell you anything so that they can get to go drink, as ugly and horrible as that is. So one of the things that you have to do is you have to watch them. The thing about an alcoholic when they lie with their mouth, but they can't lie with their body. You can look in their eyes, you can see what they want. You can watch their mouths move, and you can tell what they want. So what you have to do is watch their facial expressions. If a practitioner gets conflicting messages, the nonverbal meaning is usually closer to the actual meaning. This is how you can read people. You read people by looking at their faces, by watching their facial expressions. Doesn't matter what they're saying. I hate to use the president as an example, but we can tell when he's lying. We can tell when he's on script because he doesn't read very well. And we can tell when he's on script because it's always in a monotone. Okay. Like I said, I hate to pick on him. But he's such a good example. Practitioners often comment on contradictions, and that's what you need to do. You need to talk about, look, this is what you're saying, but this is what I'm seeing. And of course, what you're seeing is probably the reality. So what you need to do is you need to talk about the contradictions. You're trying to get to the truth. People will come in, people that rarely bathe will bathe, and they'll put on cologne, and they'll put on their best outfit to come in and talk to you. Is that the real them? Well, obviously not, because at home they don't look like that. They don't act like that. They don't talk like that. Maybe they swear all the time at home, but they don't swear at a counseling session. Is that the real them? No, it's not. So you need to mention these contradictions. We're trying to get to the truth. Politicians rarely try to get to the truth. Politicians, a lot of times, they will say what they think you want to hear. They're not lying, they're politicians. It's just the way it works. Politics, we don't have a king. We don't have somebody that can make a decision and that will be the decision. We have a tripartite form of government, so Congress has to pass the laws, the president gets to sign it into law, and the Supreme Court gets to decide whether it's constitutional or not. That's the way it works, and that's one of the reasons why politicians will say, I'm going to improve the economy, but if Congress won't go along with them, they can't do anything. Okay. But we need to talk about the contradictions, because that's how we're going to fix this person. We're going to fix them because of the contradictions that we're seeing. They can say one thing, they can act one way, but their facial expressions are going to tell us what they actually are feeling. Good observers pay special attention to facial expressions. Facial expressions can show any emotion. If the client shows no emotion at all, this is known as a flat effect, and it probably indicates depression. Okay, so if I'm really sad, you can see I'm sad. I'm about to laugh so I can hear you. If my mouth is drooping down, I'm not depressed. I'm sad. Okay. Depression is a flat effect. Depression is I can't feel anything, or I only feel a really deep sadness. And this is what it looks like. It's the flat, you get the flat effect. That's depression.
They look dead inside.
They have a dead face. Yeah, have you ever seen a decapitated head?
No.
No, okay. Okay. That's a totally different situation. Okay, there we go. Other indicators of depression include little body movement, so they don't move, they have no facial expressions, and they have a slumped posture. They can't lift up their shoulders. Watch their shoulders. Normally people keep their shoulders up. All their muscles are you're sitting where Emery sits. You know you're gonna sit, okay. Maybe you'll get some more, maybe you'll get some more Pringles. That's a possibility. Okay, so this is what depression looks like. Flat effect, we have no emotional, we have a dead face, we have a decapitated head, little body movement, and slump posture. That's what depression looks like. So if somebody is reacting to their sadness, if they're crying, if they're sighing, if they're looking down, if they're increasing the amount of fluid in their eyes, and they don't have to cry, you can just see the water in their eyes. Depressed people don't cry. They've already either cried out all their tears or they don't have any tears. So depression looks one way and sadness looks a totally different way. Sadness is a physical reaction, and we can see the sadness through the tears in their eyes, their breathing in and out. Somebody that's depressed, you can't tell if they're alive or dead. It's like they're almost dead. Yeah, okay. I was trying to do it, I can't do it, okay. Stress is expressed by muscle tension, movement, and shallow breathing. Okay. Looking away may indicate thinking, remembering, hesitant. They're hesitant about talking. It doesn't mean that they're lying, it means that they're thinking. So they say, well, if they look up to the right, it means one thing. If they look up to the left, it means something totally different. Well, that's not really true, and you've got to be careful of that. This is a myth. It is a good myth, but people will tell you that if they look up to the right, it means that they're lying. Well, no, they may just be thinking. But people knowing that if you looked up to your right, yeah, that means, and it means that you think that they're lying, they will either not do that if they are lying, or they will do that and try to fool you into thinking that they are lying. So you have to be very careful of how astute this individual is. Okay, so you've got stress, you've got thinking, what else do we have? Clenched fists must be interpreted by the context of the situation. It may indicate stress. They clench their fist when they're stressed out. When they're frustrated, they'll clench their fist. Be careful if they are angry, because they may strike out at you, or they may just be anxious. People clench their fist when they're anxious. They're trying to keep themselves tucked in so that they're protected. And that's why they clench their fists and they'll pull their bodies in and they'll hunch down when they're anxious. We can see all these things. You probably already read all of these things already anyway, naturally. We do. We have the capability of reading these things. However, different cultures are different, so you have to be careful. The gestures are culturally developed. So your culture may be different from other people's culture. I've never been around the Hopi, so I don't know. But they live on top of each other. You guys live all spread out, right? Isn't that the way it works? Hopi live right on top of each other. They live in those villages, and everybody's really close to each other. You guys live all over the place, right? Different cultures, so you're going to have different reactions to things. They are probably a little bit more closed than you are, than Navajos are, because you live spread out, so you're a little bit more open with things. And they live close to each other, so they try to hide their emotions from each other. Okay, different cultures. People that live in the city will act differently than people that live in a rural environment. If you go to Phoenix, despite the fact that everybody lives in Arizona, if you go to Phoenix, the people don't act the same. They don't hold themselves the same. They're not as open. My son used to be a bartender in Los Angeles. And when he was a bartender, people said, geez, we just love coming to the bar and talking to Chris. Why did they love talking to Chris? Well, I raised him in Nebraska. So he was very open. His stance was open. He would square up with somebody when he talked to them. A lot of people, they want to talk to you from the side. They'll talk to you over their shoulder, that kind of stuff. It's because he was from a rural environment. People love to talk to him. He got a $1,000 tip one night. I know. Damn, I want to be a bartender. Got a $1,000 tip from a baseball player. The guy was in a slump. He was drinking Cristal, which is $300 a pop, a bottle. Okay, he was drinking Cristal. But that wasn't the big deal. The big deal was the guy was in a slump. And he talked out through his slump with my son. Then he went to the ballpark the next day, and he broke out of the slump. And so the guy came back and gave him the $1,000 tip. The day before, he only gave him a $200 or $300 tip.
Only.
This is how honest my son is. What would you have done with that $1,000? You would have put it in your pocket? That's not what my son did. At his bar, they split the tabs. They split the tips. So he put it in the pot, and they all split his tip. I know. There were like 5 of them. He got $200 for a $1,000 tip. Would you have done that?
Yeah.
Ah, you're so honest. You must be a rural person.
I am.
There you go, okay. When someone experiences strong emotions, their skin tone may change color, darkening or looking rosier than usual. I'm white, so when I have a facial change, when my skin tone changes, it's very obvious. But you don't have to be white in order to see this. You guys, we can see it in individuals that are a little bit darker complexion. If you've ever had friends who were black, you know when they're unhappy. You can tell it, not just from their facial expressions, but from their skin tone. If somebody comes in the emergency room and they have very dark skin tone, we can tell if they're anemic or not. You can see it. Their skin looks ashy, looks ashen, looks like they have, it looks ashen. And you can tell, especially if you know these people, you can tell when they're happy and when they're sad. If you are friends with somebody, no matter how dark their complexion is, no matter how much makeup they have on, you can tell. You can look in their mouths, you can look at their lips, the inside of their lips. You can't hide your lips all the time. You can put all the lipstick you want on, but as soon as you open your mouth, we can see exactly what's going on with you. You can look at their nail beds to tell how they feel. Their nail beds. Sure, you look at somebody's nails, whether they have, well, not if they have nail polish on, but if you look at somebody's nails, you're nice and, everything's nice and pink. But if you've got a problem, they turn white. Your nail beds will turn white. Especially, yeah, I know, it's weird. I don't know, who's looking at people's fingers? We're all looking at people's fingers. We're looking at your facial expressions. We're looking at your earlobes. We're looking at your mouths. If you look at how people look at other individuals, when we look at somebody's face, we're not just looking at their eyes, we're also looking at their mouths, we're looking at their ears, we're bouncing all over their faces. It's called the saccadic eye movement. You're looking at everything at the same time. You're taking in all this information. This is how humans have survived for the millions of years that humans have been around. Okay. So we can look at somebody's skin tone, whether they're white or not. They can be as dark as they want it to be, but we can still tell their skin tone. You've never been around African Americans, you think, they're all black, man. Come on, you can't tell anything. No, you can't. All you need to do is be around them sometimes. Okay. Skin tone change usually starts in the chest. This is funny to watch. Not that you're looking at somebody's bare chest, but you can actually watch it walk up into their faces. And it walks up from the bottom to the top. So you can see it in their cheeks, and then it goes into their ears, and then it comes into their forehead, as bizarre as that may seem. And you can watch this happen if you want to notice things. Facial expressions, what emotion do they seem to be displaying? Do they have tears in their eyes? Tears in their eyes can mean a lot of different things. Can mean happiness. Usually it means sadness. Normally it means sadness. Is the mouth turned up or is it turned down? We can parse our mouths to look like we're smiling and when we're not. I was watching a movie the other day, and this guy said, he was playing football, and when he started running the ball, they said, well, smile, it scares the other team. It will make them think that you're confident that you're going to be able to go through the line. So this guy would smile. It was the freakiest thing he ever saw. And instead of having a warrior face on, he had this goofy smile on his face. This is back in the 30s, when they didn't wear helmets, so you could see their face. Okay. And he didn't wear a helmet. I know. So you can see his hair. That's kind of cool. Anyway, so we have to look at their mouths. Is their brow wrinkled? Means they're thinking. Could mean that they're unhappy. Everybody has a different structure. If somebody's had Botox, be careful, because they don't have the same facial expressions. Are there circles under their eyes? Of course, I have circles under my eyes all the time. Are they smiling or are they frowning? You need to look at their facial expression, but that's not all. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we have to see. As Westerners, and I'm guessing you guys do the same thing, but as Westerners, when we look at somebody, we try to determine how they feel. We look at their mouths. We try to read their mouths. That's the way Westerners work. But not all people are Westerners. The Japanese read facial expressions in people's eyes. Now this got us in trouble. Once upon a time, we were attacked by the Japanese. And the Japanese told us they were going to attack us. And the Japanese knew that they were going to attack us, and they thought that they had told us that they were going to attack us. But as Americans, because we're Americans, we didn't recognize what they were saying. They said, we're not going to attack you. But their eyes told us that they were. Now, if we were Japanese, we would have recognized what they were saying. We would have understood what they were saying. But we're not. We're Westerners. And unfortunately, in the United States, we're made up of not just people from England, but also Germans and also Scandinavians and Italians and all kinds of people. And everybody has different facial expressions. And because of that, we misread what they were saying. We didn't understand that they were about to attack Pearl Harbor. They told us they were going to do it. We should have known because they said they weren't. And the Japanese recognized sneak attacks as legitimate. And if you watch Japanese movies, you see it all the time. But we missed it. Because they read eyes and we don't read eyes. So if you look at Japanese cartoons, as strange as that may seem, let's look at their cartoons to see how they think. If you look at Japanese cartoons, they have no mouths at all. My Little Kitty, right? Isn't that what her name is?
Hello Kitty.
Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty has no mouth, but she's got these great big eyes. If we look at anime or manga, they've got these huge eyes and hardly any mouths at all.
Manga.
Manga? Did I mispronounce it? Okay. Wait a minute. Have you been to Japan? Okay. All right. Anyway, okay. So as Westerners, we don't really look at eyes, but we can see a lot of things in people's eyes, especially if they're Asian. Are they looking mostly at the floor? Where are they looking? This is the important thing. Are they looking mostly at the ceiling? Are they looking around the room? Are they looking directly at another person? Are they staring? In Iraq, how did they? I don't know. You had to read body language, right? Did you? Well, you did. You were telling me that. Yeah, you would be able, and of course, the guys with the guns would just want to pull the trigger, but sometimes that didn't give you the information that you needed. Okay. Just killing people doesn't always work. Anyway, so yeah, so when you're in different situations, you've got to be able to read people. Are they looking directly at another person? Are they staring? A lot of times when people are staring at you, it's not because they're interested in you, it's because they're thinking of something else and they just, their eyes are stuck. They're not thinking about you. They may be looking at you, but they may be thinking about You know, geez, I gotta go to the store and I gotta buy cat litter and, oh man, somebody peed in the corner, I gotta clean that up, and they're looking at you, but thinking about all this other stuff. So you have to be careful about staring. Staring doesn't always mean they're looking or thinking about you. Body position, how are they sitting? Are they leaning back? Are they slumped over? Are they slouched? Are they upright and stiff? Are their legs crossed? Are their feet flat on the floor? Are their legs curled underneath them? Are their legs crossed? Are their ankles crossed? All of these things mean different things, can potentially mean different things. But of course it has to do with culture. If you are in Germany and you're driving down the road and you see a woman with her ankles crossed, she has her ankles crossed. It means that she's a prostitute and she's looking for a client. That was a nice way to say it. If she's got her ankles crossed. If she's standing there, she's got her legs crossed, so her knees are crossed. She's not a prostitute. Don't stop and don't ask her if she, wants to have a good time. Okay. But if she has her ankles crossed, that's German. I know, weird, huh? Okay, so all of these things mean different things. All of these things mean different things. It has to do with the culture that they come from. If you're slouched over, potentially they're depressed, depending on their facial expression. If they're slouched over, they may be sad. They're not happy if they're slouched over. If they're slumped over, I'm sorry, not slouched. I slouch all the time. That's the way I sit in the chair because my back hurts if I don't. All you guys are sitting up, you're slouched. You're kind of slouched. Get your legs out, okay. So reading the people in this room, everybody's okay. Everybody seems to be all right, except for the eating thing. I'm not exactly sure about Colty, but she's smiling right now, so we're okay. Everybody seems to be all right. Body movement, did they hardly move at all? Most people will move. You can't sit in the same position for an extended length of time without your muscles getting tired, without something getting sore. I'm sore after I leave this classroom. I'll be teaching for 3 hours straight, standing up, so my back will be sore when I go back to my office. But you can't, and I don't stand still. I move my arms, I jump up and down. I'm always trying to move, just stretch my back out. So did they hardly move at all? If somebody hardly moved at all, it could mean depression, could mean sadness, depending on what you were talking about. But people rarely do that. They usually will move in one way or another. Did they move slightly? Did they fidget most of the time? If something was tapping, if something was bouncing up and down, their foot, their hand, somebody had their legs crossed and their foot was popping up and down, that means something. It means they're anxious. I had a friend, every time we would have meetings together, meetings with the entire faculty, and he'd be sitting there beside me and joking the whole time. But there was a reason why he was joking. His legs popping up and down like he's trying to pump oil or something. I mean, his legs just popping up and down. Well, he was scared of our dean, the provost. He was scared of her. And so every time we went in a meeting with her, he was just scared. He was scared a lot. And that's why he told the jokes. He was telling the jokes to dissipate his anxiety. And his leg was popping up and down. And of course I knew what was going on because his leg was popping up and down and he's telling all these stupid jokes. And of course I had to laugh at all of his stupid jokes. He was a friend of mine, so you laugh at your friend's jokes. Anyway, so he was fidgeting. Did they nod their head and swing their legs? Did their movement change during any interchange? In other words, did they change positions? If somebody said, I was showing you last time about the first time I counseled that lady, and she's assaulting me, sexually assaulting me, without touching me, of course. She's sexually assaulting me by throwing her hair and showing me her cleavage, and she's got her legs spread out to some extent. I couldn't see. Of course, I can't see anything. That's not the point. The idea was that she was displaying her sexuality, and that was the idea. She was wasn't really trying to seduce me. She was trying to get, to fool me. She was trying to get me to not think about what her problem was by presenting another picture of herself. And her picture, of course, was a seductive picture. The idea was, and she certainly didn't want me to know about her father, and she didn't want me to know about her husband, who she wouldn't have sex with. And the reason she wouldn't have sex with was because she was looking for a father figure. And of course, I wasn't a father figure. I was in my 20s at the time. But that's how she was trying to keep me away from her. She was using her sexuality to keep me distant from her, to take my mind off of what her problem was. It's a trick. It was a trick. She dressed provocatively so that she wouldn't have to disclose anything to me. Disclosing her physical form was a way of staying away from what the problem really was. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. She certainly didn't have any interest in me whatsoever. But she did it on several different occasions, which could have fooled me or should have fooled me, being the young, stupid person I was. I should have been fooled, but in this case, I really wasn't fooled. It was really kind of interesting, because here she is, throwing herself at me, and at the same time, she was trying to keep me from understanding what her problem was. She didn't want anybody to understand what her problem was. Her problem had to do with her father, who had just died. And she was looking for her father. She wanted a father figure. And eventually she divorced her cool pilot husband, and she married somebody that was more like her dad. And she was happy as a clam. So if we're talking about something and all of a sudden they change position, does that mean something? Are they turning toward me, or are they turning away from me? If they're turning away, it means they don't want to talk about it. If they're turning toward me, it means that they want to disclose something to me. In her case, of course, it was the very opposite. She was using her proximity and her person, her body, to put a barrier between the two of us. Okay. Breathing patterns. Did their breathing seem normal? If you can't tell that they're breathing, then that's the normal breathing pattern. You normally don't even notice people breathing. Are they breathing deeply? Are they sighing? Is it a shallow breath? If it's not a normal one, you'll probably notice it. If it is normal, then you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't indicate anything. But if they're starting to breathe like they had just run a half mile or something, they just sprinted a half mile, now all of a sudden we've got somebody that's starting to hyperventilate. Now we're getting to what the issue is. Are they sighing? People sigh when they're sad, when they're unhappy, when they're talking about something that bothers them. So you'll notice them breathing. Are they breathing through their mouth, or are they breathing through their nose? This can be important. Of course, if they have allergies, then they're going to be breathing through their mouth anyway. But if they're taking in deep breaths through their mouth, that may mean that is the topic that they either don't want to talk about, or the one that you need to talk about. How about that? Okay. Okay. Are they taking deep breaths? Are they making funny facial expressions at you? For some reason, when people take selfies, they're making kissy faces. Is that what they're doing? I've got a friend, every time she takes a picture of herself, she's got her lips out like this. I have no idea. Or it's one of my ex-students. She's pregnant. I don't know if she's had the baby or not. Maybe I need to email her though. But every time she takes a picture, one of those things, I have no idea what that means. You see a lot of selfies. Is that a normal thing?
Now it is.
Okay. And people are putting like cat faces on themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's logical. Everybody wants a cat face.
Oh, you mean the dog filter?
Are they doing, dog filter, yeah. But there used to be a cat filter.
There's a lot of filters, but that was the most popular one, was the dog filter.
I miss all the good stuff. Well, this is a filter. She doesn't really have pink lips, and maybe she does. I don't know. I don't even remember where I got the picture. Muscle tone, are her first fist clenched? Is her jaw tightly closed? If she's got her, she's making one of those grimacing facial expressions, it means you don't want to talk about what you're talking about. And it's making her mad that you're even bringing it up. I've got lockjaw, I can't move my jaw. Okay, that's what it means. Are they slumping? Is their face slack? Has their muscle tone changed during the interchange? You know you get to them if their muscle tone changes, or if they get embarrassed. Now you know you've touched on a nerve, and now you need to explore that. Don't be fooled, they're not in love with you. If you've only met them twice, then there ain't no way. So don't be fooled by them. Be careful. They are liars. But their body movement, their body language cannot lie. But their voices can, of course. Gestures, what were they doing with their hands? I have my friend who taps his fingers, or he plays with his pen, or he does this. And people do all kinds of weird things. Or he draws. He's a doodler. Did their hands stay in their lap folded together? This doesn't happen very often. Were their hands moving around most of the time? Usually that's the way it is. They'll raise them up, they'll put them down, they'll raise them up, they'll put them down. Were their hands in tight fists? Did they make circles with their arms or their hands? Did they show their palms? This means stop, or it means peace, or it means let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something else. So this usually means stop. Let's change the subject. Let's talk about something else. Now the weird thing is that when they do that, when they show you their palms, a lot of times you'll just change the subject automatically. And that's a mistake. So you've got to recognize this as I'm hitting a nerve, and I need to keep digging in that area, not stop. I've had clients where they would, you're talking along and you hit a sore spot, and they'll raise one hand, and pretty soon they're raising both hands, trying to get you to change subjects. And then they start moving their hands like they're pushing you back. And of course, nobody said anything about stopping, nobody said anything about changing the subject, but it just gets more and more intense. They're trying to keep you from saying what you're saying. And of course, we do this all the time in conversation. You raise your hand up and you change the subject. It's just automatic, as bizarre as that is. Jeremiah is a big hand waver. Okay, so when you see him in class, try it sometime. Raise your hand up like that and see what he does. He's fun. Your skin tone, did you notice any change in skin tone? And if you did notice a change in skin tone, you hit a nerve. Good job. And that's what we need to talk about. I got your stuff from your character. Your character stuff, okay. You guys need to work on your characters. We need to start probably sometime in October. So we got a couple weeks to get your character up. Don't forget, you don't want a character that has anything to do with a problem that you've ever had or is very close to you, like in your family or something. We don't want to create any problems. So come up with your character. The better actor you are, the better it is for your fellow students. My character, I'm going to change my character. Not his name. His name's too cool. His name's Sly Tishmingo is his name. I know. Sly likes young women. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say women? He likes young girls. Okay, so that's going to be my character. He's going to be attracted to young people. There we go. I just changed it. He usually is an alcoholic. He's still an alcoholic, he's just somebody that's attracted to females that are younger than
Did
that.
you get
My
mine?
son. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've already gotten yours up.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember your character's name.
There's more than one.
Yeah.
Well, there's one.
Multiple.
Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah.
Dissociative identity disorder, okay. When in a group therapy situation, it is important that the practitioner observe everyone in the group, and this is kind of hard because you're sitting around in a circle, and some people are right beside you, so you have to kind of turn sideways, and then turn to the other way, and then look around the circle. It gets kind of difficult. This is one of the reasons why a lot of times when there is a situation like this, what we have is, I know she sat in your seat. When we have a situation like this, there are two counselors. There will be a pair of counselors. They should not only observe the individual speaking, but how the members in the group are reacting to the speaker. Normally, of course, when you're counseling just one individual, you're watching that individual. Now you have to watch everybody in a group situation. You have to watch how everybody responds to certain circumstances. Normally, when somebody has a reaction to something, it's an extreme reaction, we look away, we try to ignore it. That's what we do in a social situation. If somebody is upset, we look away from them. We try to calm them down by not noticing, pretending that we don't understand what's going on.
Like we do to babies?
Yeah, like you do to babies, exactly. Stop crying, we know that you're not hurt. We know you're not starving to death, we just fed you, we just changed your diaper. Why the hell are you crying? Of course, you can't say that to a baby, but that's what you're thinking. So you ignore them.
You spit on them? That's what we do now.
I'm sorry to do that. No, I don't, I've never spit on any of my babies. They should not only observe the individual speaking, of course, but how everybody else is reacting. When their practitioner scans the group, it also encourages the speaker to speak to everyone, not just the practitioner, because you're paying attention not only to them, but you're paying attention to everybody. So they want to just talk to you as if this is a one-on-one session. But the reality is they need to talk to everybody. In a group situation, it's not you that's going to fix this person, it's everybody in the group. We'll fix everybody else in the group. Okay. So you have to be really careful with a group situation. There's some problems, some mental illnesses that do not work in groups. Obsessive compulsive disorder doesn't work. Because if you have a group of obsessive compulsive people, they will start taking on everybody else's obsessions and compulsions. It's freaky. They will start adopting oh, you collect, you collect feathers. All of a sudden, I'm collecting feathers. I've got some feathers for you, that kind of stuff. It gets weird. Oh, you have to turn the light on and off 7 times? I have to turn the light off 11 times. It has to be in an odd, of course it has to be an odd number, or you never get the light turned off. But, okay. See how it works? Okay. You wash your hands? I never washed my hands before, but you're right. Now I wash my hands all the time. They'll pick up each other's obsessions. It's just freaky. So you don't want to put those guys in a group. Okay. So when you're in a group situation, the practitioner needs to scan the entire group. Often in a group situation, there will be 2 leaders, as I said before. One will be observing the group and the other will be interacting with the group. So that you have an observer and you have a practitioner in the group, so that everybody is watching everybody else. The observer is actually watching everybody else, watching their reaction. Remember, it's not what they're saying, it's the way they're acting. That is the most truthful thing that anybody can do. We can't hide these things. We can't hide our facial expressions. It is necessary to observe the people in large groups. This can be done by looking for telltale actions of individuals or groups of individuals. Normally what we do is, if we're in a group like this, if I were in a classroom, I look at the people in the back to see how everything's, whether I'm actually communicating with anybody. I'm always communicating with the people in front. They're too close, they can't not listen to me. It's the people in the back that can ignore me. Okay. Are the people fidgeting? Is their facial expression incongruence taking place? Are their shoulders hunched? Is their mouth pinched? If their mouth is pinched, it means they don't agree with what you're saying. If somebody's pinching their mouth closed, it means they're trying to keep from, swearing at you or something.
How about their arms folded?
If their arms folded, they're not listening to you. they're not hearing a damn word you're saying. Or they're mad, they don't think you know what you're talking about.
How if they're on their phone?
I'm sorry?
How if they're on their phone?
Oh, geez, that's just common. That's every day. That's a constant with millennials, I guess.
What's more offensive, being on your phone or crossed arms?
You mean to me?
Yeah.
If you were sitting there on your phone, or if you had your arms crossed, I don't get offended. I don't care. You can listen to me, not listen to me. I'm usually talking to myself anyway, so I don't get offended. It doesn't bother me if your stuff is late. It doesn't bother me. I mean, some people get really, we have it. Yeah, okay. And we all know who those people are. Get their stuff in on time, because it hurts their feelings if you don't. I don't care. I've been around too long. You can't offend me. Try it. No, I'm too easygoing. I've been through the ringer too many times to care anymore. I love all my students, so what difference does it make? You guys don't have to show me love. It's the feeling I have inside. You believe that, right? No, I really like you guys. I'm having a good time. As I told your dad it was yesterday, I told him, I'm just here for a good time. And he laughed, he thought that was funny. I don't know what that means.
You should do what makes you happy, though. Then you're gonna get good at it.
There, well, I'm having a good time. And I like to counsel too. It's a lot of fun until you get a hold of somebody that is painful or hurts you or is too much like your ex-wife. There we go. Okay. What are we talking about? Attending involves being totally focused on the client. Attending isn't as easy as it seems. You gotta focus on them and you gotta concentrate on them. You gotta look them in the eye. She's happy, she's way down here because I'm just leaving her alone. Okay. Normally I pick on her. Often when we are listening to someone, we are hearing what they're saying, but we're trying to compose what we're going to say back to them. I just had this long conversation with Jeremiah yesterday. We were talking about, he's in charge of MMDR, missing and murdered indigenous women. I don't know, maybe it's MMIR, I don't know. Anyway, we were talking about that yesterday.
Murder. Acronym.
Yeah, murder and missing women, trafficking. It has to do with trafficking. Anyway, it's a really ugly subject, but we talk about it all the time. We talk about human sexual response and whatnot. I know we have these really stupid conversations, but anyway, when he's talking, half the time I'm trying to think of, let me think of something really smart to say. That's what I'm trying to think of. Let me think of something, and I never come up with anything. So.
What was your last conversation about?
He had just had a meeting and they were trying to figure out what their focus should be. And we were trying to determine how they should approach this. Well, the problem is, of course, no matter who puts the commission together, they still have no authority to do anything or to accumulate information. So what I was saying, or what we were saying, it was my idea. My idea was that what we need to do is focus on trafficking, because if you focus on trafficking, that's somebody that's alive. We know that they're alive. If somebody's murdered, they're already gone. There's no way you can save them. But we can save trafficked women. We can save them. And if we are focusing on trafficked women, then potentially we're going to be able to find missing women. So we'll be able to save as many people as possible. If we're just focused on murdered women, they're already gone. There's nothing we can do about that. And that has to do with the police anyway. But if we can focus on trafficked women, then potentially what we will be able to do is save those women that are out there who need to be saved. Okay.
So like,
I know
is that for
we
Virginia College, or is that?
No, this is for the whole Navajo Nation.
Is that the one over here?
Okay.
Alright.
I know, see, nobody has authority to be investigating any of this stuff. But trafficked women, we can go where women are being trafficked, and potentially we can see who they are and rescue them.
So these studies that are going on the reservation, they didn't go through the IRB, the tribal IRB?
This has to do, this is the tribal council. Do you guys have a tribal council? Yeah. This is through the tribal council, so. It's not really research at this point.
I'm surprised nobody has used it for a PhD yet.
He's going to write all this stuff up, so he will be working on his PhD using this as his focus. So he's going to do it, Jeremiah. So help him in any way you possibly can. I don't know. He knows a lot of policemen. He's been working in the field for a long time. So the idea is that, the idea was that we need to save as many people as we possibly can. And if we focus on murdered women, then we're not saving anybody. We're just identifying people that have been murdered and the individuals that have murdered them. But that's not really going to save anybody. We need to focus on the people that are out there that we can actually bring back. That was the idea. And he'll probably focus on the murdered people anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. Or they will. I mean, the tribal council is going to tell the group what they want focused on. And they'll probably have to go with that, despite the fact that we can save the trafficked women if we can figure out where they are.
Do you have any idea where they are, or what areas?
He knows, he has ideas.
Do you have a conversation about it?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a conversation about what areas?
No, what were we talking about? We were talking about the rest areas. They'll prostitute women in rest areas. The women will try to induce the truck drivers to have sex with them. Okay, that's where they are. But there's not that many rest areas around here. Yeah, they had that little girl that was, the 13-year-old that was stolen in Albuquerque, ended up in Louisiana. They finally found her in Louisiana the next day. I know, he went all the way across Texas in a day. He must have been going pretty quick. But anyway, so that's what we need to do. We need to watch the rest areas. We need to watch the internet, because the internet will advertise what motel they will be at in the future. We need to figure out what these sites are so that we can find these places. That's the way it works. My wife is working on this up in Iowa. They have a group up there. It's not missing and murdered indigenous women, it's missing in murdered and trafficked women. Is what they're doing up north. They get a lot of individuals that are being stolen from Chicago, and we're like 200 miles from Chicago. So they have to take them one direction or the other. West is the easiest way, because it's the most open area. They couldn't take them east, because then they run into all these cities, so they take them west. They're capturing them, or they're inducing them to join them in Chicago, and then they're taking them west, so it's more wide open. And the state's laws are different. Why are we talking? Anyway, okay. Well, there are some cultural differences in the way that someone shows attending. For the most part, it is shown by leaning slightly forward in a relaxed, comfortable position. you need to be open, you need to be leaning forward, showing them that you're actually listening to them. You need to, well, that's what I said, sit in an open and accessible way. That's one of the reasons why I don't know if you saw the Big Bang episode where Penny tries to talk Sheldon into being more open with his friends with flags, and he spreads his legs apart. And he says, come on, Penny, you do the same thing. It was
Yeah.
But this is how you do it. I mean, you show that you keep yourself open, and this is the reason you don't cross your arms. This is the reason you don't lean back. You need to lean forward, and you need to keep yourself open. And just having an open posture will tell them that you're actually listening to them. It'll fool them into thinking that you're listening to them. Your face expresses appropriate concern, so that you show them that you're concerned about what's going on. It doesn't have to be that face, but it should be a face where you, I don't know, sometimes you squint your eyes, or you put a crease in between your eyes, whatever. You have to show concern. Okay. Try not to laugh. Facial expressions are extremely important. The facial expression should be congruent to what the client is relating and experiencing. And this is how we know if somebody has schizophrenia. If somebody is schizophrenic, a lot of times they have inappropriate facial expressions. So you're talking about somebody dying and they're laughing. Well, in their head, it all goes together in their head, but they're not showing you the right thing. If you've ever been around somebody that's autistic, a lot of times they don't have facial expressions that have anything to do with what you're talking about, because they won't look you in the eye. And this is one of the reasons why autism is so debilitating. They can't read facial expressions. They don't look people in the face. This is natural for everybody. When we are little bitty babies, we're looking in people's faces, trying to figure out how we're supposed to react. And we will mimic my facial expression. The baby's facial expression will mimic your facial expression. You can train that baby to stick their tongue out. You can train that baby to do all kinds of strange things. But what if you have a mother who is suffering from postpartum depression? Now, what kind of facial expression do depressed people have?
Straight or stoic.
Or dead. Cheyenne was talking about somebody with a decapitated head. I mean, that's the way they look. No facial expression at all. So the baby's not learning how to interact, how to interact properly with individuals. A lot of individuals, when they pick up a baby, they'll make silly, goofy faces at him. And the baby will mimic those faces. My sister married a guy, a Polish guy from Chicago. He's from Chicago. He's second generation Polish. Polish people are kind of grouchy people. They are. I mean, if you've ever been around Polish people, they never smile and that kind of stuff. Anyway, Busha was the grandmother. I would change the baby's diaper, and I'd make faces at the baby, and I taught the baby to stick her tongue out. That kind of thing. And I thought, I'm a psychologist. I understand all this stuff. I've taught developmental psychology. I know you can do these kinds of things. So I taught the baby to stick her tongue out. And this is kind of a depressed family. It's kind of there's a lot of alcoholism in the family. And the Busha, when she changed the baby's diaper, the baby would stick her tongue out. And I guess in Poland, it's something horrible, like obscene or something. I know. I didn't. So they wouldn't let me change the baby's diaper anymore. I know. Because Busha got all upset about the fact that the baby would stick her tongue out. And of course, Busha is not even talking to the baby when she changes her diaper. She thinks she'll spoil them by getting them to react to you. She wants to make them stoic, just like Emery was saying. Yeah, stoic. Anyway, so I got in trouble. I wasn't allowed to change the baby's diaper anymore. There were 4 of them, and I trained them all to stick their tongues out. And finally, the old bat died, so everything's fine. Crazy old woman who was never happy. She never smiled. Who cannot smile at a baby? think about it, aren't they just the most joyous things in the whole wide world? But this lady just treated them like they were pieces of rock that she had to wrap a paper diaper around. It was, I didn't like her. She didn't like me either because I didn't drink. All men drink.
That's a twist.
There we go. All men do drink. You know that, don't you? And if you don't drink, you're still a child. All right.
You guys are kinky.
Okay, so facial expressions, when somebody is sad, then we have a sad expression on our face. We're trying to match them, we're having a conversation with them. I'm happy, you're happy, we both smile. That's the way it works. This is a natural thing to do. This is us being babies and mimicking what the baby mimicking the facial expression that they see. And unfortunately, if the mother has postpartum depression, then she has no facial expression whatsoever. So the baby doesn't really learn facial expressions, or they're learning that to be stoic, or they're learning to be, I don't know. Are you spitting on your baby?
No, when a child falls
Oh, okay.
and like they hurt, like say their elbow, the mother will, like that, slight spit on the
On the wound?
On the wound.
Well,
and
it
then
helps
on
to
the-
heal it.
Then where they fell to.
Oh, okay.
It's more like, I guess you could say how the Greeks spit on their kids for good luck. It's for
Right,
us-
that's good
it's
luck,
for
of
us to
course.
be like, to shoo away
It's
the bad luck.
good, yeah. I remember the Greeks.
Yeah.
I remember being spit on by the Greeks. I've never looked very old.
That's how now was apply medicine.
Oh,
It's
it's
one
like
of the
spitting?
applications of medicine.
Good way to do it. For most people, this comes naturally, of course, but some are taught to smile or laugh at adversity, and of course, that's what my family did. Everybody was appalled when my dad died. We had a funeral. My mom didn't have a funeral. That's how bad it was. But when my dad had a funeral, we all got together and we told jokes. And my mother wouldn't let anybody cry at the funeral. You know, when we were lowering his casket into the ground, she wouldn't let anybody cry. Now my brother-in-law, the one that's Polish, and whose grandmother doesn't ever smile, of course, he's Catholic, so he wanted to react like Catholics do. You know, they wail and they cry and everything. And so, but my family doesn't cry at funerals for some reason, for one reason or another. Anyway, but he starts crying, and my mother got up and she just about slapped him. I mean, it was that kind of a situation. But he wanted to cry because he's Catholic, and that's the way they handle things. Different culture, different way of dealing with things. We laugh at adversity. So yeah, so maybe I smile too much. Maybe I laugh too much. Maybe when negative things happen. Maybe when I go into an emergency room and I'm trying to help somebody, I'm smiling and I'm telling jokes, even though they just cut their arm off and they're dying from a stroke. You know, I'm still trying to be positive. There you go, I'm trying to be positive. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, soldiers have a real morbid sense of humor too in combat.
Yes, we do.
Like what, a person back here would like be just in shock. Like soldiers will make fun of, it's not scary, it's not ugly, it's,
The only way you can get through the
yeah, I
moral
think that's
war.
just the way they deal with humor, with that more mortality is different.
I think it's like that because you don't have time to deal with it negatively. You know, you just,
Yeah, I mean, if you deal with it
like any
negatively, then you
situation.
can't react the next time.
you know,
The more positive your feelings, the more likely you're going to be able to react in the next situation, which may happen in the next nanosecond. Okay, yeah, so you tell stupid and ugly jokes.
It's a way to cope with it, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons they swear so much.
Yeah.
And they refer to the enemy with
Derogatory.
derogative terms, of course. Yeah, that's why they do that. But it's the only way you can get from point A to point B. And point B may happen in a nanosecond. We all know,
But that's why they have problems when they come back too.
that's why they have problems when they come back. Yes, past the mashed potatoes. No, those mashed potatoes.
I've heard that one.
Exactly. I'm not gonna say it. I said it before, but I'm gonna say it now. Maintaining regular, my wife does that to me all the time. Maintaining regular eye contact is another way that you can show that you are paying attention. People from Asia, and those from Northern Europe tend to prefer a more peripheral gaze, finding the direct stare too intense, so you have to be careful whether you're actually looking in their eyes. Northern Europeans and Asians, they'll look at your nose, they'll look at your mouth, they won't look at your eyes. As weird as that sounds, it's a more peripheral gaze. They would feel better if they were sitting beside you and looking over at you from the side. That is more comfortable for them. But of course, the reality is that most people in the United States are, if they were Northern European or if they are Asian, they lose that. They lose that idea that you can't look somebody directly in the eye. There is a degree of staring that shouldn't take place. Yeah, you have to figure that out with your client. Usually you can figure it out within the first minute or so, how much eye contact you can actually make with them. And at what point do they become embarrassed or don't like it anymore. Any distracting behavior, including taking notes, should be avoided as it distracts from the process. You just want to talk. You don't want to write anything down. You can write stuff down later. But while you're interviewing your client, you can make a note from time to time, but if you're constantly writing, they don't think you're paying attention.
It also makes them feel uncomfortable too.
Oh, yeah. You may be writing something horrible down.
Like,
This man's crazy as a loon.
Yeah.
Loon, how do you spell loon? Do you know how to spell schizophrenia? I always put the C in the wrong place. They may see fidgety movements on your part as disinterest or impatience or boredom. Usually they see it as impatience, like you're trying to get to something that they're not ready to get to yet. So don't fidget. If you're a fidgety person, don't shake your coffee mug to get that.
So you have to be really self-aware too then, when you're not just aware of them, but aware of yourself.
Right, yeah, you should be. You should be aware of what you do. We all have tells. We all do strange things to keep ourselves from, our legs from falling asleep or whatever. We have these odd movements that we make. I'm not going to tell you what Marius does. He's funny, he picks his nose. Anyway, see, I told you, and I said I wasn't going to tell you. So we all have these little quirks that we do, and that's okay. Some people pop their glasses up, they're constantly pushing their glasses up. They're eating potato chips. I can't think of any. They put their hands on their chin, rub their chin, scratch their head, or straighten their eyebrows. I mean, there's lots of things you can do. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. Just do that every once in a while. If you do it more than 2 or 3 times, they're gonna think that, you know, you're impatient or you're nervous or something's going on. Or they just said something. And this is the bizarre part. You know, you'll be going along, and all of a sudden you'll touch your ear, they'll touch their ear, and they think that they've said something really, really important. And then they start going back to think, what did I say? What was that? What have I disclosed that I didn't want to disclose? It gets really weird. So you have to be careful.
do you observe your students? You have 8 classes. Do you notice?
I have 8 classes, but I only have 3 in class, so.
Do you look at every single student and then you know how to observe or what they do
Oh,
already?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, geez, I've had Emery 15 times in class. So I know him, Mose, Scott, I know Scott. You've been in my class and you always sit in front, and yeah, sure, I know all my students.
Okay.
Okay, I can read all your tells.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's automatic, it just happens. I'm reading all this stuff with Marius. Marius is my buddy, he's my pal, we talk all the time. And here I'm reading all this stuff, and Marius, I feel sorry for him sometimes.
I noticed that Sue does that. Like, she figures out what I'm already gonna do, and it's kind of silly. I didn't even tell her anything, but she already knows what I'm doing.
Sure, she's a counselor, she knows all this stuff.
She made us do like these little those name tag thingies, and it tells her what she should know about us, and I don't wanna do it anymore.
Okay. She should know all that stuff already. Yes, sir.
2 questions.
Yes.
really. Do you ever accidentally do this when you're speaking with your spouse or your kids, and do they ever get upset about it?
All the time and all the time. My daughter will not talk to me anymore because she thinks I'm trying to psychoanalyze her.
I used to date a girl, she was a counselor, and I think she just couldn't get out of the habit, and she would talk to me like that, and it was so annoying. It was so
Exactly.
annoying, and
Why do you think I've been married 3 times? My first wife swore, and this was in a court of law. Well, she didn't swear in a court of law. Well, she swore that I was psychoanalyzing her all the time. This is in a court of law. She's saying I'm psychoanalyzing her.
I would tell her, I'm not on your couch. Don't talk to me like that, please.
But you can't help it. It's just there. And of course, you guys are gonna develop these same habits. The reads, you're reading people, and you're reading them constantly. We do it anyway, but it's not as obvious as it is for a counselor, because we're seeing more things. We're trying to go deeper. A lot of individuals, if you're city people, a lot of people who live in cities, they don't even look at anybody. They won't look anybody in the eye. And that's one of the reasons why they don't want to see anything. So somebody stabs somebody and they're laying there bleeding to death, they just step right over them. They don't even stop to try to help. I know, this is terrible stuff. But as a counselor, of course, we don't have a choice. Yeah, my kids don't like me anymore. Unfortunately, it's sad. My daughter hates me. Another way to communicate involvement is through minimal, and it's her birthday today. Today's the 18th, right? 18th of September? I know, thank you. She's 50. Oh, it's on the tape. She's 50 today. Minimal encouragement involves repeating 1 or 2 words a person says, or nodding like this guy is nodding. Saying something in the affirmative like, uh-huh. And that's the way you get them to keep talking. You're showing them that, yes, we're moving forward, or just nodding. Like I said, when I'm counseling somebody, I hardly ever say anything, almost never. People think I'm brilliant. I'm not brilliant, I just know how to shut up. And that's how you become a good counselor, is not saying anything, letting them talk. They're gonna fix themselves. They wanna be fixed. There you go, you're nodding your head, that's good. Pee-wee, okay. Listening involves fully focusing on what the other person is trying to communicate. Listening actually goes beyond attending. Most of us are like I said before, we're composing something in our own mind, trying to answer that select individual. This is something that we shouldn't do. Did I forget to plug that thing in? I did. Okay. No. Listening isn't just hearing the words, but conveying the understanding of the implications of what the client is saying. While listening, the practitioner uses minimal encouragement to get the client to continue disclosing. And that's what we want. We want them to keep saying the same thing. So you have to be careful. You don't want to make a facial expression if they said, yes, I raped and murdered that 3-year-old. You don't want to go, then they'll stop talking. So you just act like nothing has happened. If you respond at all, they'll stop. So you have to have a neutral face and just keep nodding your head or saying or whatever. Nodding your head. So you're really good at it. You need to get them to keep disclosing the information. Listening involves noticing the client's communication style, including their tone, their volume, the speed of delivery, noticing the pauses that they have. It's as important what they're not saying as what they are saying. How much of a pause was there? If they are pausing, it means they're thinking. If they're thinking, sometimes they're trying to think of a lie. So you have to be careful as far as the pauses are concerned. How much silence is there? Usually after a long silence, they will tell you the truth. They won't tell you a lie. If they try to fill the void with noise, with words, a lot of times they're trying to think of a lie to tell you. But if they are silent, They're trying to decide whether to tell you the truth or tell you a lie. If they told you the same thing over again, they're probably lying. But if all of a sudden they disclose another piece of information that is a piece of the puzzle, that's probably the truth. So silence is very important. Changes in patterns of speech, of course, a good example is Barack Obama. Barack Obama was African American, you probably know that. His mother was white and his father was African, he was Kenyan. So his speech pattern was really kind of fascinating. He wasn't raised by his father, he was raised by stepfathers and by his mother and his grandparents. So his speech pattern was really kind of interesting. He was never raised by black people. So he didn't have a black speech pattern. But sometimes he would drift into a black patois. Sometimes he would have a black speech pattern. I know, so where in the world did he pick it up? It couldn't have been from his mom was white. Couldn't have been from his grandparents, they were white. He was living in Hawaii. He didn't have a Hawaiian speech pattern, which was kind of interesting, even though he was raised primarily in Hawaii. So where did he get the black speech pattern?
Through his marriage? Through his marriage?
Yes, his marriage, yeah, this is his wife. But his wife didn't have a black speech pattern either. I know.
College?
No, he picked it up from his wife, because when she was mad, she would speak black patois. When she was yelling at Barack. She would, and then, so he developed that speech pattern from his wife, which was interesting. So you knew that when he was speaking with a black patois, that he was trying to speak to the black population, even though he didn't have, that wasn't natural for him. He was trying to speak to a certain group of individuals.
There's a comedian that speaks like that, because he's married to, and he talks about that, how his speech pattern changed.
Oh, really?
Because, yeah, he married a black lady and he lives with her near their family. I can't remember his name, he's a white guy, but,
I was gonna say Kevin Hart.
no, he's a white guy, I can't remember his name, but he speaks with more of an urban vernacular. Can't remember his name. And he talks about it in his comedy sessions sometimes, how it changed over time.
Right. And we've seen that with other comedians. Geez, I can't think of Thompson. There was a guy named Thompson. He had a white speech pattern. But of course he had to play black roles because he was a black guy. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was raised in New Jersey. And he grew up in a white neighborhood with white kids, and he went to a white school. So he didn't really have a black patois, he had to develop it with his comedy. And then, of course, it was stereotypical. I don't know if you remember Eddie Murphy when he first started on SNL, but yeah, it's really kind of interesting to watch, if you understand what's going on. I mean, you see a black guy, you just assume that they have a black speech pattern, but that doesn't always happen. Or you see a white guy, you assume he has a white speech pattern. But sometimes he doesn't. How confusing is this?
I sometimes I'll listen to people and I try to pick up where their dialect's coming from, if it's from the South, or if it's from the East Coast. And then even the East and the West Coast of it's a little bit different, you can tell.
Oh yeah, people from the East Coast.
Like from California, they have it's a little slower.
Right.
And then it's even slower in the South.
Right.
Even the consonants, not the consonants, the vowels get drawn out a little
Right.
bit. You can pick it up.
On the East Coast, they drop a lot of vowels. On the West Coast, they don't.
Yeah, and so when you listen to people, you can hear like if they lived somewhere else before.
Right. Or Canadians overpronounce their O's. They overpronounce their O's.
Or they say
Well, that's Canadians, but people from Minnesota, Minnesota and North Dakota, yeah, those guys, they talk like they're Scandinavian, you know? It's just the way they do it. And so I was down in Oklahoma, and I was interviewing up in Montana. And people in Montana, of course, and these are the native guys up there. They speak like they're from Canada. They're Canadians. I know. So I started talking like they did, you know. It was really kind of interesting. I was overpronouncing my O's. I was hoping nobody was noticing because, you know, I didn't want them to think that I was trying to make fun of them. But I
Yeah.
wasn't, it just happened, I just kept trying to overpronounce my O's.
When I first started dating, this girl in Vancouver,
Just kidding.
I'm a little older than everyone I've dated.
This is
I've had-
this is last week, okay?
5 girlfriends my whole life. But when I went to go meet her family, because I was brown, they assumed I was native, and and it was fine till I started talking. And then they looked at me and they're like, "Don't tell me you're American." And I was like, "Yeah,
Oh
I'm
my
from the
God.
States." They don't like Americans, but
Well, how can you like American Indians? I mean, Canadian Indians are so different. Yes, sir,
Sorry for the interruption.
that's okay, we're almost done.
We're gonna shut down the internet for about 5 minutes at 11:50.
Okay, yeah,
For a few
we're,
minutes, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes.
our class is over with right now, so thank you very much.
Thanks again. See ya.
We'll turn it off. Okay.